you ask if there's an appropriate time for public comment, we may get some comments over the phone line also.
Okay.
And we've had some in advance already, which I'll include those in my staff report whenever I do that.
All right.
And we are, excuse me, we are live now.
According to my clock, we still have 2 minutes.
Yes, mine too. And Sally Germer is intending to join us, your last board member.
Okay.
Paul wants to make sure he shows up.
Paul, I'm assuming you've shared your invitation with some other representatives?
Yes, he did. This is Katie Clive. I'm here too.
Okay.
And I believe Circle K will be here as well.
Hey, Linda. Yes, this is Matt Cotton.
Zoning Board of Appeals meeting November 2nd, 2020.
All right. I have 5:30 on my clock, so we can call the meeting to order.
Yes.
First up on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes from July 6, 2020. Do we have a motion?
It seems like the zoning classification was changed on the property for Hambrick through council, and I think everybody's satisfied. Linda, do we need to do anything? Because according to the minutes, we had a 60-day remand period. Do we need to do a motion to say no further action or something? Or do we just let it go?
I think, well, it's not on, this would be the appropriate time, Scott, to bring it back off the table and perhaps make such a motion inside this motion to approve minutes. So if we're here to approve minutes, let's start that, but then inside of it, take it off the table and get a motion. Perhaps you've got one prepared.
I don't, but I'll wing it. So is it two separate motions or inside?
It would be two separate motions.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the first motion that I have is to take the matter for the Hemrick Road off of table and to propose no further action needs to be taken on the property, on the matter.
All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
We need a second first.
Oh, yeah.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
Still second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sally?
Sally?
All right.
Sally, you're on mute. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes for the March 2nd ZBOA meeting.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Sally seconds. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All right. And the meeting minutes from the July 6th meeting are approved. Second order of business for this meeting is a proposed Circle K on Paris Island Gateway at Wrights Point Drive. And I think I would like to start with the staff report if we can.
Yes, be glad to do that.
From
Yes.
Bowman Consulting Group.
Yes. So we have a variance request. This is about parking places for a proposed Circle K convenience store and gas station fuel pumps at the corner of Paris Island Gateway and Wrights Point Drive. The zoning there is T4 Neighborhood Center open, and this is an allowed activity in T4 Neighborhood Center open. With regard to parking ratio for T4 Neighborhood Center open is 2.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of building. That's a minimum. So that means that the parking, let me continue here. Bullet point number 3, parking spaces for any use may not exceed 140% of the minimum required. Therefore, the total parking spaces allowed for this establishment, measuring out the convenience store at 2.5 per 1,000, going up to 140% is 18. The plan that was in your packet was reviewed by the town's design review board and approved actually on April 2nd, 2020. At that point, the applicant did take advantage of that 140% increase and did plan for the 18 spaces. They are there. The applicant is requesting a variance from this strict application of the zoning ordinance. The applicant requests a variance from the maximum number of parking spaces that are going to be allowed for their project. Their project, by the way, is 5,200 square feet. That's the convenience store. Again, restating it, the maximum parking spaces allowed is 18 spaces. The applicant is asking for another 6 spaces. The rest of the staff report is the bullet points directly from our ordinance, and I'll just read the headings. Whenever we consider a variance, we have to consider extraordinary conditions. We have to consider other properties and make certain that the conditions that are being varied do not apply to other property in the vicinity. We should consider the unique conditions that might be present here. We should consider our comprehensive plan. We should consider utilization of the property and the substantial detriment that might be caused if we make this decision. We have limitations to what we can grant a variance to. The board may not grant a variance, the effect of which would be to allow the establishment of uses not otherwise permitted in the applicable zone. It's not allowed to to increase the density of use above that permitted by the applicable zone. It's not allowed to extend physically a non-conforming use of land or to change the zoning boundaries on the official zoning map. So as we go through this process this evening, we will get to the point where we're going to be answering all of those questions for ourselves, no matter what our decision is. We either are not doing those things or we will be doing those things. Profitability is not to be considered. The fact that property may be utilized more profitably should a variance permit be granted may not be considered grounds for a variance. Hardship due to eminent domain, where the alleged hardship results from the taking of part of the property by eminent domain, thus reducing the land area available for parking, buffers, and other purposes. The applicant shall have the burden of proving that after good faith efforts by the applicant or previous owner, the condemning of authority failed or refused to provide the applicant compensation adequate to cover the value of both land actually taken and the economic impacts of the reduction in size of the remaining property. Only if the applicant meets this burden of proof will a hardship under these conditions be considered adequate to justify granting a variance permit. Obviously, some of these benchmarks that I'm reviewing here don't pertain to this issue that's in front of us. In granting a variance permit, the board may attach conditions Now, let's remind ourselves of this. We've done it in the past. We may attach conditions regarding location, character, or other features of the proposed building structure or use of the, as the board may consider advisable to protect established property values in the surrounding area or to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare. So that's a brief overview of what we should be looking for and the benchmarks that we should use as we make the decision that we're about to make this evening. I think this might be an appropriate time to share with the general public and put into the record some statements that have come from the neighboring neighborhood. All of these come from Wrights Point, the residential subdivision that lies deeper toward the water on Wrights Point Drive. From William Hucks, we have the statement, I would prefer to keep parking spaces of Circle K entrance to Wrights Point to 18 spaces. And that came to us from Duke and Angie Hucks, who are residents in Wrights Point. Also a letter, Dear Linda, thank you for letting me share my concerns with you about the Circle K zoning variance request at the intersection with Wrights Point. As a resident of Wrights Point, this will greatly impact my lifestyle and my home's market value. I do realize that the Circle K gas station and convenience store has basically already been improved, and there is little I can do about that. I do want to point out the following, though. In the city's own words, the intent of neighborhood center zone is to provide neighborhoods with a broader amount of retail and service uses in the scale and character of the T4NC zone. There's a great perspective drawing on page 3-19 of the Port Royal Code, which was intended to provide a brief overview of the transect zone and is descriptive in nature. I submit to you that Circle K concept really has little to do with what the city intended, and those of us in the neighborhood are really not looking forward to this type of retail, that's in quotes, establishment, to walk or bike to from our homes. I believe that the parking spaces are lower in number than Circle K would like, because this is not the type of retail establishment the city had in mind when establishing this new zoning in 2014. I ask that you not grant this variance request for more parking, as it will simply make things a bit less desirable and that much further from the city's original vision than it is already. Thank you for your time and attention. This is from Patricia Betts. She's at 64 Wrights Point Circle. And the final one I received yesterday morning. As to the Circle K gas station convenience store request to increase the number of parking spaces from 18 to 24, I am opposed to this request. As a resident of Wrights Point, I have already come to terms with the fact we will now have 5 gas stations in a radius of a half mile. Circle K has applied for a variance for more parking spaces, exclamation point. None of the other gas stations have 24 parking spaces, exclamation point. Circle K is going to be a 24-hour gas station convenience store built in a residential neighborhood. I'm very concerned for the safety of our families and young children and the impact it will have on our quiet neighborhood. As a homeowner, I ask you please to seriously consider keeping this parking spaces to the allotted 18 spaces. This comes from Estelle de Brun. She is at 4 Wrights Point Circle. That's all I have in my written report, Mr. Chairman. I'll be glad to share any of the images or anything else that I had in my report. And of course, to take questions from the board.
Have any questions?
Linda, I had a question for you. Is there, in the town of Port Royal, is there any precedent to allowing more than the 140% parking for the 140% of the maximum for parking for any retail, whether it be gas station, convenience store, or anything else?
We have not. As you all know, the ordinance was passed in 2014. We have regularly entertained and had a measured amount of commercial development under this new code. We still call it a new code, even though it's 6 years old. And to this point, neither you nor I nor the Design Review Board has granted anything more than the 140% rule. Yes, sir.
Or Lawler, is there something you'd like to add?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone. I'm Paul Lawler. I'm with Bowman Consulting, representing Circle K on this variance request. The plan that we had shared, it shows the 6 additional parking spaces. Those are on the opposite side of the canopy, kind of closer to the dumpster area. And the intent of these spaces are employee spaces with just overflow parking for customers if needed. And what the reason for this request now, as opposed to when we were kind of in the early planning stages, was that this project did have to go back. And we do have some representatives from Circle K on the line. I'm sorry, there's a bunch of Paul Lawlers. I accidentally forwarded the meeting invite, so everybody sign in as me. But so the project did have to go back to Circle K for approval, and was one of the conditions on the project was the fact that the parking does not meet their minimum standards as far as number of spaces. And just in my professional experience, we typically do kind of shoot for a 22 to 26 range for a C-store of this, and that's kind of what we've usually done. And a parking count in 2.5 per 1,000 does seem very for a zone that kind of is going for a more neighborhood feel. And on that point, the T4 zone, it does in the road systems inside the T4 zone do incorporate some street parking, and with the current site, there will be no street parking adjacent to the site. So those additional spaces that would typically be there in a T4 zone are not on this site, and so that's really Circle K is really just looking for a couple of additional parking spots for their employees to park and just as some overflow parking. That's a general overview of the nature of this request.
If you don't mind, I want to jump in real quick. So earlier today, I went and visited the site, Paul, that you're planning on building on here. I went and saw it, and I do see that on Wright's Point, that road definitely is not wide enough for on-street parking, unless didn't we read something that they plan to improve that road?
Yes, sir. The apartment complex that is being constructed back there, they will be making improvements to Wright's Point Lane.
But even with those improvements, we're not talking that they're going to have on-street parking that is directly adjacent to the gas station, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So then after looking at that, and I saw that the dirt roads kind of already go around that lot, which I suppose those are, your company is going to improve those roads, and that's how traffic is going to get in and out of the gas station. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Circle K will as a developer.
Okay. And then, so after I did that, I visited 3 other gas stations in the downtown area of Port Royal. And I just wanted to count spaces, what they have. And they had 17 spaces. A couple of them were not directly in front of the store. I believe it was around 6 as well, probably for overflow parking or whatnot. And I think they had maybe around 12 or I don't remember what the exact number was in front of the store, but the total number of spaces was 17. And then I went to the other Circle K that's on the north side of Port Royal, that is directly on the border between Port Royal going into the city of Beaufort, over there near the shopping center where Piggly Wiggly's at. They had 13 spaces total. And then I decided to go back to Enmark, which is this gas station that is directly across the street where your Circle K will be built. And they had 17 total spaces. Out of all of those, the Enmark had no adjacent parking. Parker's has some adjacent parking. It's on the main road. Sometimes it's full, sometimes it's not. I've never really had an issue getting a parking space at Parker's down the street. And I don't really frequent the other Circle K that's at the other end of Port Royal, but I know that they have a huge parking lot right next to that. So seeing that number, I don't see the huge need for 6 extra. That's my initial instinct. Now, just on that drawing there where you want the 6 extra spaces, if those spaces did not exist, what would be in that area? Is that vegetation?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it would be a landscape area.
Okay. And then what is the structure? Just if you're looking at the spaces as you're looking at the map, what is the thing that's right to the right? It looks like it has 2 slots in it. It's marked at, I guess it's 30 foot. What is that?
That's the dumpster enclosure.
Oh. That's it. I just wanted to put my input that I had gone to other gas stations and I didn't see a overwhelming crowd issue with parking spaces. So.
And Paul, I did very similar to what Phil did. And the Enmark directly across the street, I believe is probably the closest, most similar to what you're proposing. I think you've got 16 pumps. Is that correct? Yeah. And the Enmark across the street is 3-sided also with street with no off-street or on-street parking. So it's a very, very similar situation. And I too, like Phil, I don't see the hardship, and I don't see the need really for the additional to go in an increase above the 140%.
Now, go ahead, Paul.
Do you guys have an idea of like what kind of square footage those stores are, and as far as like operations, are they consistent with
the Enmark appears to be pretty consistent. As Phil pointed out, they have 17 parking spaces. You are approved for 18, so square footage is fairly similar, I would suppose. Considering that Linda said there's been no variances or there's been no precedent set for going above the 140%. Linda, I did have one other thing that I wanted to ask you about. I was reading through the development code, and there's an entire section on bicycle parking. um, is not bicycle parking required. I think there's supposed to be a minimum of 2 spaces. Is that correct or?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. I didn't see that on the plan.
Yeah, I did not pick that up either. This would be something, Circle K isn't into the permitting process yet. And so that would be something that whenever we, they've gotten through design review board. And so they've got a green light there, but that still leaves a site development permit to be garnered and a building permit to be garnered. And so details like that will be folded in. For example, we don't see anywhere on here where the mechanical equipment is going to be placed. So like I said, that stuff, those things come up in the zoning review whenever they apply for a permit.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Mr. Clark, we do have bicycle parking planned. It's directly adjacent to the patio, kind of
All right.
at the corner.
Adjacent to the patio.
Oh, I think I see it.
Yeah, it's a little
Okay.
block.
Okay, I see it. I see it. Thank you.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Cotton with Circle K. I just wanted to, one, thank y'all for your time, and two, make a couple points. The end mark, I was just doing a little digging, and that end mark station is roughly 2,000 square feet less than what our new building would be proposed at. They're right at 3,200 square feet. Ours would be 5,200. So I think the calculations on parking, where they've got 11 spots, we only have 18. They would, from the calculations perspective, have more spots per their square footage than we would have. And then, so I just wanted to kind of put that on the record there. And as well, I don't think the Circle K you were calling out was the site on Robert Smalls and Savannah Highway. And in one of our design review board meetings, a couple of the neighbors had pointed out that behind our site, they had pointed out that cars are oftentimes parked all over that site, all over the landscaping, and that they, when they were fighting our use, were pointing out, we don't want this to happen right outside of our neighborhood. So, I mean, kind of per their request, and I've seen it all the time when I'm here. There are cars parked all over the landscaping at that site, and I wouldn't want that to be a problem at this site, which is kind of why we're proposing the 6 extra spaces. It is come to be a corporate request of ours. Our board wants to see those extra spaces for employees, because we're finding more and more across the country that people are, especially in times like we have now, are looking to shop at more convenient places, not go to the big grocery stores, deal with crowds of people. They like the get in, get out, convenient store play. It's less contact and all of that. And if I mean the world, and as we know it, is driving more of that convenient use, we're going to need those parking spaces. And if we don't have them, I would assume people will be parking on landscaping areas and off-site on Mr. McNeil's residual property, because there is a pretty large grassy area around that'll be left around the site. So, I mean, I think the spots will be used. I don't think it's going to be a build it and they will come. I think everybody's already here. Those spots will be used. And if we don't have them, we kind of put the surrounding area at risk to become kind of a parking lot for whoever wants to shop at the store at those busier times. And then it also becomes a convenience thing for our employees. We wouldn't want them having to park across the street or anywhere else.
Hey, Matt, is this store going to be approximately the same size as your store that is on the 170 in Argent, that is obviously not in Circle K. But the brand new Circle K there, is this about the same size as that store?
This will be a hair larger. That store is 49, a little over 4,900 square feet. I think it's 4,968 square feet, and this one will be right at 3,200.
And how many parking spaces are at that location?
Ooh, let me pull up. Give me a second, and I can pull up that site plan.
While Matt is doing that, Mr. Chair, I would like to add a point of clarification. We've talked a bit this evening about the N-Mark across the street. The N-Mark was built under a different code than the code that we're applying to this situation. So I think it harkens back to about 2004 or so. We didn't have a maximum. So it's not quite apples to apples to understand that they're 3,000 square feet. This is 5,200 square feet. That's 16 parking spaces. This is 18, et cetera. Just a point of clarification.
When I go to that N-Mark all the time, I've never had a parking issue, not once.
Well, and that's the thing, you've got the brand, a lot of maybe Circle K feels that their brand is going to bring more customers than N-Mark, or, Mr. Parker, he feels that his will bring more. I have never had an issue. I mean, I'm not saying that there couldn't be an issue, but I have never had an issue myself finding a parking space at a local gas station.
Me either.
The
Well,
other
I'm
thing-
curious how many spaces the Ladies Island location has. Off the top of my head, I want to say it's about 10. And that's
The
a
other-
Circle K.
The other thing to think about is that when you go to get fuel and you run into the store, I don't move my car.
Right.
So you have all of that parking, basically.
Yeah, good point.
So I just pulled up the site plan for the Argent Boulevard, and there are 26 total spaces. There's 6 behind the store for employees. There are 5 towards the side, the Okatee Highway and Argent Boulevard intersection right there. And then there are
Matt, how many
The-
square feet did you say the one on Argent was?
4968 for 4,968 square feet. And then there are 15 or 17 front touch parking spaces in front of the building, and that is including the 2 ADA handicap spots.
And your store that were in question is 3,200?
No, 5,200 square feet. So it'll be a little bit over 200 square feet more than that. The 3,200 square foot store was the N Market across the street, or N Mark.
Right. Well, I think maybe what the folks that live in the neighborhood back by the water, what they might be also worried, just an eyesore. Is it something that they gotta stare at? Like, so you have those 6 spaces. How is that going to be landscaped and hidden so that it doesn't become an eyesore for the people who live there? And more importantly than that, I think that what they're concerned about is, I don't know if it's safety. If too many people rolling in and out of there directly in front of their neighborhood, I don't know if that 6 spaces really makes a difference, because people who are going to pull into Circle K are going to pull into Circle K. It doesn't. I don't think by having 6 extra spaces. So I'm kind of fighting the opposite here. I don't think that having 6 extra spaces is going to bring more people in. It is what it is. I mean, they're not going to. People are not pulling into Circle K counting spaces. So I see how it can help Circle K, but at the same time, there is guidelines here, and there is a group of people that are already dissatisfied with it.
And Matt and Paul, I think what we've kind of all expressed is you guys do this for a living. We just drive and use your stores, but we don't know there's going to be a problem. We don't know there's going to be a parking problem yet. As evidenced by the Enmark and the Parkers and the other Circle K and such, doesn't seem like any of us have ever had an issue with trying to find a parking space in one of those gas stations. So we don't believe there will be an issue here. So, but maybe if there is at some point in the future, Linda, is there an opportunity? Let's say we deny this application today, and this becomes a problem not only for Circle K, but becomes a problem for the neighborhood. Could they come back at that point and propose a variance to add those 6 spaces in? That way, we're not approving something now that may not be needed. And we're giving everybody, including the neighborhood, an opportunity to come back later where they would be in support of it because they've realized that it's actually safer to have those parking spaces. Is that possible, Linda?
It is possible. There's no limit to the number of times. There's not even a timing limit on coming back to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So that would be changing circumstances. I think you've pointed out a very good scenario that may reason for a return trip to a Zoning Board of Appeals in that regard. Once it's built, a problem arises, they can come back and re-present their case. Yes.
Yeah, and obviously at that point, hopefully the neighborhood would be on board with it. They're clearly not on board with it now, and we've got to factor that in as well. So I don't know if anybody else has anything else to add, but if they don't, I would like to make a motion, Mr. Chair. Are you on, Brian? Okay. I would like to make a motion to deny the application to add 6 parking spaces over the 140% maximum.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So Linda, let the record reflect.
We do. So we have a motion. Still must go through the order on variance application. If you all would pull that out. So number 1, the board concludes that the applicant has or does not have an unnecessary hardship because there are extraordinary or exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property based on the following findings of fact. So I suppose we check does not have, and if I could just have the board talk to me about the findings of fact on not having extraordinary or exceptional conditions.
Based on all of us going to different gas stations and never have a problem with parking. Could we put that in there?
I can. That's a good one. Number 2, the board concludes that these conditions do or do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity based on the following findings of fact. I think our answer is these conditions do generally apply to other property in the vicinity on the following findings of fact. I think it's practically the same thing Sally just offered, that we've looked at other gas stations and don't find problems with the limited number of spaces. Number 3, the board concludes that because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would or would not effectively prohibit the unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. I think the answer is we've decided it would not effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property based on the following findings of fact. We're not denying the gas station, the convenience store, or the gas station use in any way by limiting this. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Number 4, the board concludes that authorization of the variance will or will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will or will not be harmed by granting the variance. I think our first one, the authorization of the variance will be of substantial detriment is what we've decided.
Yes.
And the character of the district will be harmed by granting the variance based on the following findings of fact. Any offers there on reasoning?
Well, more parking spots will impact the look of it. I'm sorry, the look. So I think that's it. The look of the neighborhood.
Look at the neighborhood and the T4 neighborhood center zoning designation, which is supposed to be less auto-centric and more pedestrian friendly.
Right.
I could add that in there also.
Perfect.
The board, number 5, the board concludes that the effect of the variance would or would not be to allow the establishment of a use not otherwise permitted in the zoning district. The effect of the variance would not have changed the establishment. We wouldn't have been, if we had granted this variance, we wouldn't have been allowing a use not allowed in T4 neighborhood center open. So that's a would not. Then I'll quote the section of the code. The effect of the variance would or would not extend physically a non-conforming use of the land. This is a conforming use, so this would not be extending a non-conformity and would not change the zoning district boundaries on the map. Based on the following findings of fact, the issues were not, those things were not before us, number 1. And number 2, you denied the variance request. Do you like that reasoning?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm seeing heads nod, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so therefore the board offers that the variance is denied. And we will clean up this document, and there are no conditions, of course. We'll clean up this document and get it out to the applicants within 30 days. Thank you.
Linda, were we supposed to go back to, I guess, 2 meetings ago because it was part of the packet on the wall?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we do still have an agenda item on the board, on the agenda.
Yeah, item number 3 of business, discuss ordinance amendment for landscape wall sign type.
Okay,
Saw that in my packet, but I'm not sure what it's all about.
okay. Well, if you recall, the apartment complex that is on Paris Island Gateway, just north of this site, as a matter of fact, came to us and wished to have a monument or freestanding sign. And monument freestanding signs are not allowed in T4 urban center. That's their zoning designation. And through the course of the discussion, the request for a variance was denied. That went through straightforwardly. But also during the discussion, board members led the applicant to another sign type in the code, and that's the landscape wall sign type. And I provided in your packet a picture of what that page looks like from our code book. We had some stipulations about that landscape wall type. Let's see. We asked them to apply for the landscape wall type sign. They would fill the box with landscaping and have one sign per area wall. I think those were our only stipulations.
But I thought it was going to be like in a square, in a V kind of thing.
Okay, and that's where this is what I heard from several members of the board, is that what they eventually built, what they applied for and built, which I gave you a picture of also, it's in place, did not match the intention of what this board talked about.
Right.
Admittedly, we don't have, this is the first time ever I have used the landscape wall sign for anyone to be applied to. So I kind of had code language and emotion. Unfortunately, it didn't make it, the V concept didn't make it into that language. I couldn't hold them to that because it didn't make it into the motion language. And so this is what we got. And so the reason I wanted to bring it back, number one, I heard comments from the board that we weren't pleased with what was, that what was built did not mirror what we were talking about that evening in the meeting. I did hear some, I like the sign, it's okay, but it's not what we talked about in that meeting. And so rather than chalking this up to a missed opportunity, I want to grow on that experience and see if, landscape walls, if you look at the image that's in our code book, it's obviously a wall holding back something.
Yeah.
And with the Low Country, you don't often find that. As a matter of fact, in this application, if they had built a wall, they would not be retaining anything out there in front of Waterleaf Apartments. So I'm looking for some direction, looking for some
Well, I guess,
conversation.
yeah, Linda, so I believe I was the one who initially went out there, and I don't know why, I'm not required to, but I tend to follow up on things that we approve and don't approve, just to see what was done. And I happened to be riding past there, and I happened to see the sign. And what was not provided to us in this packet here is, I believe what was built, and I think it's not that the sign doesn't look great. It does. It's fine. But if we're trying to keep within the intent of the code, I believe what they built is a monument sign and put a hole in the middle of it. And what they built is a complete different definition of what is here that you did provide to us of a landscape wall. I just feel that they went around what they really wanted to do, and they just cut a hole in it and said, we'll put a couple plants in it. We were talking about, that day, we were talking about, putting a large tree in there and then putting lower bushes and stuff around it. I mean, this is something that they built something that you would put some daisies in the middle of it and call it a day. And it is a monument sign with a hole in the middle of it. And to me, based on what was approved, they manipulated what was suggested to them, and they did exactly what they wanted to do.
So,
That is my interpretation of what I saw. That was so upsetting, and not upsetting that I'm tied and wrapped around it, because I'm not emotionally wrapped around it, but it is, we do this board for a reason, because we try to uphold the codes that is set forth for us to follow, as a community. And if we're going through this process, I guess it's just a little disturbing that they did what they were going to do anyway.
So maybe this is a lesson for us that we have to be really specific. Really.
that's that too, but I've gained some, I think that in amending it, whenever I take this code language, a stipulation that the two faces of the sign be at least 45 degrees apart, not parallel to one another. Whenever you
Right.
open up that sign to that, at least 45 degrees, and ideally 90 degrees, because that's what the picture is on the in the code right now.
Yeah,
I
Linda,
think that might fix it. I think that might help us not have a repeat.
yeah, I had to leave early that meeting, but
Yes.
one of the things we talked about before I left was we kept using the word planter.
Exactly.
And Phil alluded to it as well. To have a planter, I think that the picture, or what they actually got approved, the drawing of what actually got approved, here it is only 3'4" wide. The inside is less than 2 feet wide. That's, to me, that's not a planter. And so again, to Phil's point, it almost seems like they took advantage. They knew they were there. They knew the intent of what we were asking for. They took advantage of this board and of town Port Royal to do something different, because it wasn't exactly clear, but the intent was there. But having said all that, I don't know, Linda, you've said that you've never had anything like this before. What do we do at this point? I don't think it makes sense to tell them that they got to start over. I think that's kind of probably silly. But what I don't want to happen is, I don't want a precedent to now be set that the next person the next apartment complex that comes down the line, they say, well, they did it. So, and we really don't have a leg to stand on, do we? Or can
We do.
say,
Yeah, no, we do. I think that we fix it by sharpening the language in the landscape wall sign type. I think that we take, and that takes months, but we'll get started on it. We'll draft the language, we'll take it to the planning commission, and then we'll take it to council for a blessing.
that's something you do during you're right now doing the comp plan. Is that something you do during the comp plan, or?
No, this is more concrete than a comprehensive plan.
Okay.
The comprehensive plan, is where we find language where we have transects, and our T4 transects our transects move from an urban to suburban to, from a rural to suburban to an urban environment, and T4 urban center being at the top of that hierarchy. We don't want, again, things that are autocentric oriented. We want things that are more like streets in a town and a community, as opposed to something out on a 4-lane, 5-lane highway. it begins that transition. So the comprehensive plan already gives me the ammunition that I need to make these changes and sharpen this language.
Good.
And sooner rather than later, because like you said, I don't want to be caught in this situation again.
We also, just to make ourselves feel better, send them a letter telling them that we, just to be on record, that we don't believe it met the intent, or is that a waste of time?
Not a waste of time. I can do that.
What does everybody
I-
think?
I don't think it's necessary.
I-
I think it's water under the bridge at this point.
Yeah, it is water under the bridge.
I don't think that I don't think that it serves a purpose at this time,
Okay.
just because there's no action after
Yeah.
you send them this letter. So it's,
Okay.
we just need to fix it on our end.
I don't, Mr. Chairman, I don't need a motion on this. It was purely for discussion. I just wanted to get the feedback, make certain that I had the folks who had helped me act on this, made certain that I understand and that they all understood however, and it does seem as if everyone's on the same page. So I'll take it from there with
Okay.
a code amendment.
And then, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. We appreciate you.
everybody.
Stay safe. Don't
Thank
forget to
you all.
vote.
Be safe.
Yeah.